beginning was Lawrence and Dave had a conversation, and from there contacts were made with Brittany, and Southern Water and Portsmouth Water were contacted, and eventually this partnership started. Sarah was the last person to come on board, and she brought 2 pilots with her, and that was in 2017. And I'll never forget the first meeting in France. I didn't really know what was going to be the outcome of the project in the end. I knew what we planned on achieving, but I wasn't quite sure how that journey would happen. And I think for me, it was a journey of discovery for both myself and all partners. I think we found that some of the things we planned on doing didn't quite work out. So we changed tact and we moved on to something connected but slightly different. Obviously, as the policies in both countries, Brexit, COVID, it's just been, you know, a hurdle after a hurdle. And we've managed to overcome them all as a project, as partnership. And I think that for me was the most significant thing, was all of the partners pulled together, and nobody sort of stood back and let it happen. They actually, you know, people actually worked towards it, which was good. The challenges around cultural differences that we work is very different in the UK as it is to France. The way that we have to approach different situations, again, is totally different in France to how it is in the UK. And I think all of the partners have been on a journey of learning to understand that process. Of having the 2 different ways of working has enabled us to come up with a robust scheme. Some of my most wonderful times through working on the project, through working with partners. I think you do need to be open to the challenges, and I think it's recognising those challenges and recognising those differences.
So Southern Water wanted to be a partner in the CPES project because we have water quality issues in many of our catchments. We supply drinking water across the southeast, and many of our catchments are impacted by nutrients and pesticides. So we wanted to come together to share best practice and learning with partners and to help us develop our thinking around payments for ecosystem services.
So the CPES project for us is really important because of the fact that we used to have a large payments for ecosystem service project with the water company, but we really wanted to expand it with other buyers, and CPES was a great example and a great place to do that.
So yeah, I was really excited at the beginning, just because it was actually working with colleagues in France, really, and actually understanding how they deal with it, but also working with other companies in the UK as well. It's always good to compare and contrast, and then try and improve, particularly if you're stuck or on things that you've got going within your business.
I think it was really interesting to see that the problems were across the channel, so it was English and French problems, but also I was really interested in payments for ecosystem services as an issue, and it was just really interesting to kind of get under the skin of it.
I think the biggest challenge with payments for ecosystem services is really about trying to understand what the benefit is from the measure you're creating. So is it really generating the water quality benefit or the carbon benefit? So one of the most technically challenging components of payments for ecosystem services is really about showing that the service, the water quality benefit, is provided from the measure that we're putting in place. And actually that's required quite a lot of evidence and monitoring and working with both the farmers and the water company.
So one of the issues we encountered was whether to open up negotiations with the landlord or with the tenant, and who you should then form the agreement with for payment of ecosystem services. And we look to experiment and try different approaches of having an agreement with the landlord to see if we could build measures into the tenancy agreement, but we also had individual agreements with tenant farmers as well.
I don't think we didn't have any problems really. I think it's been so successful. Lots of the farmers that we've engaged with have taken on board a lot of the trials, and the delivery through workshops, they've taken on a lot of them.
So our farmers aren't used to delivering water quality benefits, they're used to delivering food. So a lot of the discussions we've had is about raising their understanding of how what they do on the land influences the water quality, and that requires quite a lot of time and energy to work with farmers. So the regional authorities, we have very good relationships. We're a regional organisation, and so we sit on a lot of the same groups and committees and panels, and so they get involved and hear from a lot of the work we're doing. So on national issues and national organisations, we get involved with, but it's less so. They're very interested, people like DEFRA, on finding out what we're doing, but it's usually them coming and looking at what we're doing rather than getting involved in big workshops.
But I'm speaking from a national point of view, and it's definitely being thought about, payments for ecosystem services, that kind of innovative financing of environmental improvement. So yeah, there is that interest, so it's developing that.
Southern Water as a water company is a regulated business, so we regularly talk with our national regulators, which are the Environment Agency. The Environment Agency are a partner in this project, which helped, but we also had dialogue at a national level. Water companies are steered by national guidance on what environmental measures and drivers we need to comply with. And through the course of the CPES project, those drivers were updated and the guidance was updated. So we were able to engage at a national level with the Environment Agency and with DEFRA and with Natural England to try and make sure that payment for ecosystem services were one of the options that we were able to consider going forwards.
The legal issues have really been around developing our PES contracts with farmers. I think that's gone really well. Fortunately, within our company, we've developed that with our legal team and our procurement team. Financially, we've got sufficient funding through CPES to carry out these trials. Big issue with funding is whether we've got sufficient money to upscale this across all of our catchments.
So, I mean, the interesting thing, since we started the CPES project, we've gone through Brexit, so our countries are already starting to change differently on how they approach things. So our approach to the Common Agricultural Policy, the domestic agricultural policy in the UK, is similar but slightly different, and we're having a big impact in the UK on how payments for ecosystem services are embedded in those future schemes. The interesting one will be seeing whether the European sort of changes to the Common Agricultural Policy will follow suit per country and for the whole of the Union.
In terms of the legal agreements with farmers, it's been very different in terms of whether you're speaking to a landlord or a tenant, because tenants often have short-term agreements. They're often only willing to enter into short-term agreements with a water company in terms of PES. So we've had to learn and adapt our approaches to take things like that on board. Brexit has been a shame. I think Brexit happened midway through the project. I think in terms of our relationship with our French colleagues, I don't think it affected it at all. We were very sad to be leaving Europe and they were very sad to lose us, but I don't think it's had an impact on our relationship across the project.
France and England share very similar geologies, very similar land uses, very similar problems, and actually it's really valuable to see how different people are addressing these challenges. So I feel sad that we're not able to continue these things on in the future, but I know that there are other opportunities out there to share that best practice and activity.
And the associated ecosystems. We've got demonstrable evidence, I hope you've seen that, from the CPES pilot studies that sustainable PES is achievable. It's achievable both in France and in the UK. You know, the scale of implementation in Lavigne and in Tremblay-Ormeville is very significant, and it required engagement from the majority of farmers. We've undertaken an extensive set of trials on a whole variety of farming practice interventions. They not only improve water quality, but also have a sustainable impact on biodiversity, soil health, carbon sequestration, and sustainable food production. We've got commitment from the water companies to continue promoting PES schemes. I've already mentioned Eau de Paris and Seine Normandy, but Portsmouth Water and Southern Water are committed to these initiatives going forwards. So PES schemes are really effective interventions because they're local. They're community-oriented initiatives that engage a variety of local stakeholders. They make a direct connection between community engagement, commercial agreement, and measurable outcomes that affect society as a whole. In the case where there's no single buyer, so we've got multiple buyers and we are focused on multiple ecosystems, there is an opportunity to pursue an integrated approach. But achieving that is going to be complicated. That's the next step. And it's going to require legal and financial commercial agreements that focus and support that initiative. And it's likely that those complex relationships and arrangements will require some form of market or not-for-profit intermediation or brokering or whatever we want to call it, possibly based on advisors and guidance. The rivers trusts, perhaps the water companies, perhaps the conservancy, perhaps cooperatives of farmers coming together, perhaps agronomists potentially have that capacity.
And the catchment partnerships.
And the catchment partnerships, absolutely. That's all I wanted to say, other than to thank Dawn and Nelly for making all of this happen today, to thank our French colleagues for coming.
But I wanted to say thanks to Dave for all the time, and Dawn and the team for such a great leadership of the project. So absolutely.
To the successful, a very successful Interreg project.
I've had some of the most interesting, exciting, fun and informative times over the last 4 to 5 years. I have grown so much, you have taught me so much, and I really am very grateful and it's been fabulous working with you. Thank you.
Oh, very good.